Hello friends, welcome to chess training. Myself Nikhil Joshi welcomes you to endgame lessons. What is endgame in chess? Endgame means where most of pawns and pieces are exchanged and only few pawns and pieces remain on the chessboard. When we are playing the endgame, remember our first and very important idea is to try to make a new queen. As you know, when our pawn reaches the last rank, we keep him outside of the board and we can take a new piece in his place. For example, if this white pawn can reach the last rank, he can make a new queen out of it. To win this game, white has to try to make a new queen. Now, can we directly walk forward? If we walk forward, black king will come and catch our pawn. So this is not going to be winning. So that is why white started with the move king to c5. So can you see the white king now has attacked the squares b6, c6 and d6. So now black king cannot come here. Black king goes back one step. Again we have to be careful. If we go forward, then the black king will come to d7 and capture our pawn. So our king must go forward. But where should he go? There are two boxes. One is d6 and another is c6. Let's say he goes to the square d6. In this case, what black will do, his king will come in front of our king. When a king moves in front of another king, it is called taking opposition. Now, what is opposition? In the opposition, there is a gap of one square between the two kings and both of them stand on the same file. So now what will happen? Let's say we push the pawn. In this case, black king will come to e8 and if we go back, we will lose the pawn. So the only square remains is e6 to maintain the support, and in this case, this is a stalemate. So match will result in a draw. Now let's go back to the position where we had to take a decision. We have seen what happens in case of king to d6. So actual game, white goes king c6. Can you see friends? Now white has taken the opposition. White king has gone in front of the black king. As he comes to stop our pawn, we again take the opposition. Now black king comes in the way of the pawn. Now we push the pawn. Now observe the board carefully. Our pawn is controlling the squares and our king is controlling the squares. So what can black do? Now black king must get out of this square and white king moves forward to give the support to the square e8. As the black king goes away, we make a queen, and with the help of king and queen, we can trap the enemy king. Let's see one more example of what is opposition. So in this example, it is black to play. If you observe the situation, the black player is left with a lone king. So black will have to try and draw the game. To draw the match, black must be able to stop the white pawn from becoming a new queen. So here the black player starts with the move king to g6. So you see the black king comes in front of white king and he takes the opposition. White plays king f4, king f6, again taking the opposition. Now White realizes wherever I go, the black king is going to come and take the opposition. So he pushes the pawn. Where should black king go? Of course, in the way of the white pawn. Now white pushes the pawn. Now let's see how black should progress. If he goes to the square f7, then white king will come to the square f5 and white will take the opposition. That is why black goes king e7, and as the king comes over here, we take the opposition. White tries to push us back. King e7, blocking the pawn. King e5, and now the critical point is reached. Where should the black king go? Let's say he goes to the square d8, e8 or f8. He has to choose between the 3 points. So let's say the black king goes to f8. This will prove to be an error. Why this is an error? Because now white can take the opposition, and as he takes the opposition, black king has to move away. White will push the pawn, and now can you see? The black king is left with no choice but to come out. Then white will come over here, controlling the queening square, and will make a new queen to win the match. So now let's go back to that point, this point, where he had to take the decision. If he had gone to d8, let's say, then also white king is coming to d6 and take the opposition, and white will have the advantage. So that's why black king goes to the square e8, which is the correct idea. Now can you see, because of your own pawn, the white king cannot come here to take the opposition. So he goes to d6. Now we play king d8. Take the opposition. Now white pushes the pawn and black king finally blocks him. If the white king goes away, then the pawn will fall. And if he comes to the square e6, then this results in a stalemate. This is how black achieved the draw. So friends, let's now go to the third example of an opposition. So friends, in this situation, it is black to play. Now you see, black pawn is going to come down. But if you start pushing him directly, the white king is obviously going to come to block you, correct? So that's why black starts with king to b5. So can you see, we are taking the opposition. Let me repeat, what is opposition? Opposition means two kings come in front of each other and there is a gap of one step between the two kings. White plays king c3, king c5, king d3, king to d5. And see, black keeps taking an opposition. White goes king to c3. Now, if we just keep taking an opposition, are we going to win the match? No, we cannot win the match. For that, our king must support the pawn to go forward. So here he plays king to e4. Now here friends, there comes an important concept. It is called important squares. What are the important squares? They are the squares which come in front of the pawn. From these squares, you see, from these squares the pawn is going to walk forward. So these are the important squares and the black king is controlling it. White king goes in front of the pawn. Black again takes the opposition. He goes over here and this time black king comes one rank forward. So can you see which important squares he is controlling? Yes, he is controlling the square d4, d3 and d2. Now white plays king to e3. So what is his plan? He wants to play king e4 and then king d5 to attack the plan. So how does black pawn stop this idea? He plays pawn push. Can you see? Now white king cannot go from these squares to attack the pawn. So king goes back, pawn comes forward. White plays king d1 and now the critical point is reached. Should we push the pawn or should we take the opposition? If we push the pawn, white will take the opposition, and again we push, he will block us. And so this is going to result in a stalemate. So that is why at this point we have to be careful about taking this decision. So how does he handle it? He plays king to d3. So can you see he has taken the opposition? King c1, king e2, and can you see black king is controlling all the important squares. So now white king cannot stop the pawn. Black king finally helps the pawn to go forward and become a new queen. And as the new queen comes on the board, white resigns the game. So my friends, I hope you have understood the concept of opposition and important squares in king and pawn endgame. Did you like my lesson? If you have liked it, please share this video with your friends. Subscribe the channel and wait for the next lesson. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.